You know, I mostly wish it had more to say. Just the whole thing is very surface level, never really digs down into ideas or themes like the original attempted to, doesn't really seem to have a coherent point of view, so it comes off more shallow than anything, which is the opposite of what I'd hoped for. You might say I had a depth wish. Whereas the original Death Wish was one of the iconic New York movies of its era, this remake moves the exaggerated fantasy of standing one's ground against an encroaching urban crime apocalypse through gunplay to Chicago. Huh. You know, I don't hear anything, but my dog is going nuts. Die Hard 5. Die Hard with a pension. I'm sorry, what? They did make a fifth one, really? How was it? Oh, that's too bad. Well, at least they didn't call it White Panther. There's actually nothing funny about this. Sorry. You know, I could probably think of a general national mood and or scenario that would be a worse moment in time to release a remake of Death Wish if I tried, but this is still pretty damn unfortunate, and I don't want to try. In any case, here we are. This is a remake of a controversial 1974 film by Michael Winner that starred Charles Bronson in the I'm sorry, that can't actually be the poster, can it? It is. Holy shit. I mean, that's not even a little bit correct thematically. I mean, if you're gonna pander, at least pander honestly. Anyway, the original film was based on an ultra-dark novel about a man who descends into a life of psychologically self-destructive urban vigilantism following the intense trauma of an attack on his family that he's unable to prevent. While enormously popular despite or perhaps in spite of being trashed by critics and cultural commentators of the time, the original author railed against the film on the grounds that he felt it did tacitly endorse the very actions and viewpoints of vigilantism that he'd attempted to criticize, which the filmmakers would respond to by making 4 increasingly cheesy sequels that absolutely endorsed it. Yeah. Look, Charles Bronson was a badass, but the Death Wish movies were not a particularly proud moment either in his career or in the history of action cinema. But at least they actually had the balls to be about something, however reprehensible. The new one comes courtesy of director Eli Roth, and an apparently substantially rewritten screenplay originally from Joe Carnahan is an ugly, mean-spirited, soulless slog that doesn't even have the temerity of a commitment to either celebrating or criticizing the topically loaded content of its central narrative, instead following Roth's usual tendency to careen wildly between tones and perspective, with seemingly no scene-to-scene cohesion beyond whatever he thought might hold his interest on that particular day of shooting. An almost comically miscast Bruce Willis is on hand to alternately smirk and sleepwalk his way through the lead as a rich suburban dad who, after a burglary gone wrong, leaves his wife dead and his daughter in a coma, conveniently stumbles into possession of a Glock 17 and starts spending his nights stalking the post-apocalyptic urban hellscape apparently right down the damn street from his big-ass house, ostensibly to look for still-at-large killers, but really to assuage his survivor's guilt by repeatedly almost dying in gangland shootouts. And where in the original this was complicated by a push-pull between police and politicians over whether or not the vigilante presence was actually worth tolerating, here the things-get-out-of-hand B-plot is, of course, all about the anonymous Grim Reaper becoming a viral sensation on YouTube and the subject of talk radio debate by real-life Chicago area media personalities. But instead of actually getting into the potentially difficult or challenging ideas it feigns at raising, the film just lets these things sit here as decorative garnish as it lurches with disinterest between the otherwise out-of-place slasher-style money-shot kills where Roth can actually show signs of authorial life for a few minutes. Yes, doing a hell-yeah, gunslinging, pissed-off uptown white dude cleaning up the inner city version of Death Wish would be just about the most irresponsible thing you could possibly release right now, but at least that's a point of view. This film wants to split the difference and play coy about anything remotely thoughtful in any direction, winking at the unease between lily-white suburbs and non-white inner cities, but also making sure that all but one of the main break-in guys are white and trotting out a succession of black women to be the voices of moral approval for Willis's vigilante rampage. It wants to make fun at the expense of NRA TV-style firearm fandom and the tacky absurdity of the upscale gun shops that cater to range toy hobbyists, but it also keeps them on deck for a Chekhov's slightly bigger gun finale. A montage contrasting Willis's day job as a surgeon with his nightly weapons prep that should be one of the darkest sequences is inexplicably cut to back in black that doesn't even make thematic sense. Worst of all, you can see where this, including hiring Eli Roth to direct, might have led to a decent movie. Just about the only interesting sequence leaves out the guns entirely in favor of Bruce using his knowledge of surgery to gruesomely torture information out of one of the bad guys, which is not only visually dynamic and nasty, but also a more deeply disturbing and psychologically rich expression of the whole concept that you'd think would be the underlying part of the whole character, i.e. a guy gone so far around the bend, he's now using skills intended to save lives for the exact opposite purpose, like some kind of slasher superhero. But instead, it's just a weird one-off scene that never comes up again. There also seem to have been some substantial last-minute edits at play, of the type that usually only happen when a studio knows they've made a bomb. See, Vincent D'Onofrio is on hand playing Willis's screw-up brother, who keeps showing up to remind us that he owes people money, that he's broke, that he needs money, can I have some more money? To the point where the audiences in the cheap seats even have to be thinking, oh, clearly we can see the dark twist this is building up to, but then it just turns out that one of the robbers is actually an important local crime guy, which makes no sense, and fighting him gets to be the finale instead, so the brother character is just completely superfluous to the whole story. Look, I'm sure that when people get around to watching this, since they certainly aren't buying tickets to it now, it'll probably find a not especially discriminating fan base that assumes it got bad reviews because politics, or critics don't like guns, or some other bullshit, but the fact is this is a boring, stupid, badly made, thematically incoherent, paint-by-numbers, totally disposable movie that's honestly not even worth the time I've already given it. Half a star, I'd tell you to skip it, but judging by the box office, you probably already did.